Hi everyone, my name is Christine Gillespie and I am the Retail and Tourism Manager at Historic Huguenot Street. One of the many digital programs we're going to be offering on a weekly basis is a reading of excerpts or short paragraphs from one of the many books we sell in our museum shop. And this week we are going to be taking a peek into the Old Fort Restaurant, Recipes and Memories. The Old Fort Cookbook is compiled by Gladys F. Gottlieb. The Old Fort Restaurant was a New Paltz staple from the time it opened in 1938 until it closed in 1990. Elsie Oates and Alice Cranz were pillars of the community, known for their welcoming atmosphere and delicious comfort food. Home to weddings, gatherings, and social activities, the Old Fort Restaurant was a place where the people of New Paltz could come to relax and eat some excellent, well-prepared food. Now home to historic Huguenot Street's visitor center, the restaurant that once was will never be forgotten. So here's the cover of the cookbook. And like I said, it's compiled recipes that were served in the Old Fort Restaurant. And you can see here the contributors. They helped put together the cookbook. And I just wanted to read you guys the introduction. This is from the editor, Diane Du Bois Gleichenhaus. The Old Fort Restaurant closed on December 23, 1990. After serving food to the public for almost 60 years, it became a victim of modern building codes. The kitchen was deemed outdated, floors were weak, and entrances were not handicapped accessible. Since the Du Bois Fort was on the National Historic Register, no drastic structural improvements could be made. This was the end of an important part of New Paltz history. The Old Fort Restaurant was the center for much of the town's social activities. Weddings, engagement parties, and anniversaries were celebrated inside the restaurant or on the lawn. The New Paltz Club held meetings in the main room, and notables including Eleanor Roosevelt dined there. Mostly, it was a comfortable, welcoming place that served excellent, well-prepared food. This book has been written to preserve the unique history of the Old Fort Restaurant. It is a tribute to the people who worked to make this restaurant a memorable dining experience. From Minnie Deo, one of the first proprietors, to Elsie Hannah Oates, owner from 1937 to 1972, and to Alice Cranz, cook for 52 years and owner until 1990. So I wanted to read a little bit of the history for you guys if you are not familiar with the Old Fort Restaurant. Maybe you're not from New Paltz, or you are and you haven't heard of it somehow. This will give you guys a nice idea of the fort's history. The history of the Du Bois Fort, or the Old Fort as it was called for many years, is the story of people who lived in and cared for the building during their tenure. Built by Daniel Du Bois in 1705 as his family homestead, the fort became the gathering place for the Huguenot community, especially after church on Sunday, to swap gossip and to meet friends. Over the course of its 300-year history, the fort continued to be the site of social events ranging from family dinners, weddings, funerals, neighborhood festivities, and notably, the attendance of dining patrons of the Old Fort / Du Bois Fort restaurant from the 1930s to 1990. The descendants of Daniel Du Bois, beginning in 1830 with his great-grandnephew, another Daniel Du Bois, enlarged the structure and modernized it according to the standards of the era in which they lived. Louise Berry Dingham, the granddaughter of that Daniel, owned the fort from 1902 to 1967. After Louise's marriage in 1908, she and her husband, Dr. John C. Dingham, settled in Spring Valley, New York, and leased the fort. During the late 1920s and early 1930s, the fort housed a tea room. Mrs. Dingham began alterations to the building in 1937 so that it could be used as a restaurant. New bathrooms, wiring, and a kitchen wing were added. Mr. and Mrs. Oates had moved to New Paltz in the late 1920s from Walden, New York, where they were born and raised. Mr. Oates and Bob Parker, another Walden native, had purchased a hardware and plumbing store on Main Street, New Paltz, and named it Park and Oates Hardware. When cash became scarce during the middle years of the Depression, Mrs. Oates was offered a small farm with fruit trees and chickens outside of New Paltz in exchange for a debt to the hardware store. In addition to the chickens, they began raising hogs and turkeys on the farm. With all of this livestock available, Mr. and Mrs. Oates thought that operating a restaurant in the old fort might be a good idea. They were also confident that the restaurant would be successful because Mrs. Oates was experienced as a cook and had served full meals to large groups of people. So on this next page, I wanted to show you guys a photograph. So you can see it says Christmas 1953. Elsie Hannah Oates and her family enjoyed dinner in the main dining room with Gertrude Elting-Deo when she boarded at the old fort. So upstairs in the old fort, there are a number of rooms that were converted into rooms for boarding purposes, and Gertrude Deo was one of the women who boarded during the time of the old fort restaurant. And if you've been in the fort before, this room where they are dining is actually our orientation room currently. This door here leads through to the hallway where the stairs are. And this picture, this is where our television is, where we show our orientation video. And over here is exhibit space. So it's really cool to see how the space was used during the restaurant and just what a transformation it has made to today. Another cool part of this book, because it is compiled by different people and includes a bunch of different things in it, there is a correspondence section. So it has a couple of letters that people wrote in about the fort's history, and I wanted to read one of them to you. It was dated February 4th, 2005, from Mary Morin, Gardner, New York. Dear Diane, it was interesting to hear you tell of your idea of forming a cookbook of recipes and anecdotes from the old fort at the historical meeting at K Corners. My daughter worked there on Sundays when she was a senior in high school. We would sit anxiously waiting for her to come home Sunday nights, for Alice always gave the waitresses all the leftover desserts for the day, delicious lemon pie, coconut cake, etc. Also, my brother and his wife, Paul and Rita Donahue, who still live in New Paltz, had their wedding reception there on April 7th, 1951, and had chicken on a biscuit for brunch. As a person who works in the museum shop regularly, I have come to meet so many people that have their own experiences and memories of the Old Fort restaurant, which is really unique. A lot of people come in and had worked there during their high school years, or they know their grandmother used to go there out for dinner with her friends, and they remember the atmosphere and it just being a warm, welcoming place for everybody to come together and enjoy a meal. So it's really special that we have this book, and it's one of our best sellers in the museum shop because it has so much history and memories to it. So I wanted to show you how the cookbook is divided, and it's divided by type of food. So you can see the table of contents. I'm going to try and show you guys something from each section so you can get an idea of the types of food that they were serving in the Old Fort. And also each new section has either a picture or a piece of media, like a newspaper article or something that starts. So I thought that was really cool too. In our appetizers section, I wanted to read to you guys the relish tray because this sounded pretty interesting to me. It's 2 cups creamed cottage cheese, 2 cups thinly sliced bread and butter pickles, and 2 cups cranberry orange relish, which earlier in this section you can find the recipes for both the bread and butter pickles and the orange relish. Cottage cheese, pickles, and cranberry orange relish were placed in a ceramic 3-tiered dish. A teaspoon was placed in each tier. This was the relish tray. It was passed around by the waitresses, and each guest helped themselves. The guests would place the relish on their bread and butter plate. The relish was replaced as needed. So this was walked around the restaurant, and anybody who wanted to take some would take a scoop with their teaspoon and put it on their own individual plates. Next is the soup and salad section, and here is a picture of Alice Crans in her, what I believe is her senior photo, which is really cool. I also wanted to show you what is on the inside of this section. It is the advertisement for the Christmas dinner at the Old Fort restaurant, and you can see Christmas dinner was $1.50. $1.50 for fruit cocktail, turkey with mashed potatoes, turnips, boiled white onions, green beans, butter sauce, olives, celery, cranberry sherbet, hot rolls, salad, plum pudding, mince pie, pumpkin pie, bisque, and nuts and mince. That was $1.50. Or you could do roast duckling, or for $1, you could do Saturday night special, which was a home dressed roast pork dinner for 75 cents. So these are the winter rates it says on the advertisement. I'm assuming that during the summer and spring when they were more busy, the rates went up from maybe perhaps $2. I just thought it was really cool to see just how inexpensive the food was at the Old Fort and the amount of food that you got for $1.50. So in soups and salads, I wanted to share with you guys the Old Fort salad dressing. This salad dressing was actually bottled and sold in the restaurant because it was so popular. So for anybody out there who would like to make it at home, this is what you need. 1 cup apple cider vinegar, 1/4 cup vegetable oil, 1 cup ketchup, 1/2 cup white sugar, 1 teaspoon paprika, 1/4 teaspoon white pepper, and 1/4 cup shredded cheese of good quality, it says. In a large bowl or pitcher, mix apple cider vinegar with vegetable oil. Add ketchup, sugar, paprika, and pepper. Mix well and do not whisk. Pour into a jar and seal. Do not refrigerate. This will keep for about 3 months. If you wish to add the shredded cheddar cheese to the dressing, do so before you serve it. Do not store it with the cheese in the dressing. Pour this dressing over a crisp tossed salad made with seasonal ingredients. This recipe makes for 1 pint. And this was Alice Cran's recipe. So maybe you want to go home and make your own Old Fort salad dressing, or perhaps buy the book and see what other delicious things she has in here for you. Going through, it was really hard to choose which recipes I wanted to talk about because there are a lot of yummy ones in here. Okay, next is vegetable and side dishes, and here is another picture of Alice Cran's, taken by the Huguenot Herald in 1990, around when the restaurant was getting ready to close. And on the inside, we have a old menu. Whoops. So you can see kind of what they were offering there. Roast prime rib, roast leg of lamb, and a roast turkey with bread. Yum. So my side dish that I wanted to share with you guys is mashed whipped potatoes, which sound delicious. You need 3 pounds potatoes, red preferred, 3 quarts cold water, 1 teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon white pepper, 1/3 cup softened butter, and 1 cup whole milk. Peel and cube potatoes. Drain potatoes, rinse in a colander with cold water. Put in a large pot and cover with 2 inches of cold water. The potatoes may be stored this way for 2 days in a container of water if refrigerated. Before cooking, add 1 teaspoon of salt. Put on high and bring to a boil, then reduce heat to medium. Cook until potatoes are tender. Test them by piercing them with a fork and drain. Put in a bowl of electric mixer. Add 1 teaspoon of salt to the pepper. Gently toss, add butter, set mixer to medium, and beat until butter looks blended. Gradually add milk. When all milk has been added, turn mixer on high for 1 minute. This is serving for 4 to 6 people. And this is also another one of Alice's recipes. In our main dishes section, we have a photograph of the Du Bois Fort at the time as the Old Fort restaurant. And a nice wintry scene. And on the inside, we have a picture that caught my eye because I know this room well and I would never have imagined it as a living room. But This was Elsie Oates' living room. And if you're familiar with the building, this is what we call the orientation or the hands-on history room or the fireside room. This big fire actually is home to a beehive oven. And here we have a door that opens. You could put like a Dutch oven in there or bake bread or a tea kettle or any type of pots. And actually this shelving unit here is now a door. This is one of the doors to our kitchen. So it's interesting to see how Elsie had it set up and what it looked like at the time in 1945. I'm sure it was a very cozy living room, and she probably spent many nights reading by her fire. The main dish I wanted to share with you guys is for roast loin of pork. You're going to need a 5-pound pork loin, a half a teaspoon salt, a half a teaspoon white pepper, and a meat thermometer. Very simple, not a lot of ingredients, which I like. Position your rack in the center of the oven. Turn oven to 350 degrees. Rinse roast well under cold tap water and pat dry with a paper towel. Season with salt and pepper. Place the roast on the rack of a shallow roasting pan, fat side up. Put half a cup of water under the rack and insert the meat thermometer into the thickest part of the roast. Turn the oven to 325 and roast meat for an hour and a half or until thermometer reads 170 degrees. This serves 8 to 10 people. And in our next section that I will be sharing with you guys, which is desserts, we have the Old Fort Restaurant in 1951 at Rita and Paul Donahue's wedding reception, which is really cool to see how it was set up. And this room is actually where our museum shop is currently. This window here is the back wall, and over here is where our cash register is now. So it's interesting to see how many people they actually fit in this room at the time. And I just thought that was really cool. So Paul and Rita, congratulations on your wedding in 1951. So the dessert I wanted to share with you guys, which I'm sure some of you either love or hate this dish. It's seasonal, pumpkin pie. I do enjoy a pumpkin pie every once in a while. However, it is not my favorite dessert, but I thought I would share it with you guys today. It also says that you can substitute butternut squash for the pumpkin if you're not a pumpkin fan. You're going to need 1 10-inch pie crust, 3 large eggs, 2 3/4 cup fresh puree or canned pumpkin, 1 cup granulated sugar, half a teaspoon salt, half a teaspoon cinnamon, half a teaspoon ginger, half a teaspoon cloves, and 2 1/4 cup evaporated milk or light cream. You're going to prepare your pastry for one crust, which is 10 inches. Position the rack in the center of the oven. Turn to 425 degrees. In a large bowl, beat eggs with a fork. Mix in pumpkin, sugar, salt, cinnamon, ginger, cloves, and milk or cream. Beat on low for 1 minute and then medium for 3 minutes until smooth. Fold into pastry-lined pan with a rubber spatula. Cover edges of the crust with strips of aluminum foil. Remove during the last 5 minutes of baking. Bake for 15 minutes at 425 degrees. Lower the oven to 350 degrees. Bake for at least 55 minutes or until a toothpick inserted and filling comes out clean and looks firm. This serves 8 people. You know, the trick for a good pie, which I've not been successful in cooking a good pie, is to put the aluminum foil around the edges. So I'm glad that Alice included that in her recipe. So that brings me to the end of my reading. I did want to show you also in the back of the book, there's an index of recipes, so you can go straight to here and browse for anything you're interested in or any of the ones I shared with you guys today. This, like I already said, is a great cookbook. If you are a New Paltz native, you grew up in the area, you have family who worked here maybe or ate here, this is a great gift idea. Bring back some of those memories, some of the food. But it's also, is a nice souvenir for anybody who just is interested in recipes of the past. The way that we cook things now is slightly a bit different than some recipes from, some older years. So it's interesting to flip through and see the types of ingredients that were being used and the types of dishes that we would consider to be popular. So if you're interested in purchasing your own copy of the Old Fort Restaurant Recipes and Memories Cookbook, you can purchase it through our online shop all the time, but starting today through May 27th, you'll receive an automatic 10% discount on the book if you add it to your cart. We can ship it to you. If you're local, we can arrange a safe pickup for you. And I just really hope you guys are enjoying our readings every week, and I hope you're staying safe and healthy. And tune in next week to see what we'll be talking about then. Bye!